Any tips on for gender non-conforming folks about who menstruate to manage their periods or feel better about them, since a lot of period education is centered around the girl power narrative, which they say is not inherently bad, but is not the most inclusive. I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to throw it to Chella because I know she has some information on this as well. For me, I'm going to direct you to my YouTube channel, shameless self-promotion. I do all of my education on YouTube in a very gender inclusive way, and it's available to anyone. I have a very big following of trans and non-binary and non-gender conforming people who feel like their dysphoria is not triggered by the way that we discuss pregnancy, periods, and menstruation on the channel. So if you are looking for education from a gynecologic standpoint, myself and many other GYN doctors on the internet have moved towards being more inclusive, and it's been a very positive change for me, and I hope that it helps people as well. Chella, any advice there?
Yeah, sure. So I'm cis, but queer. So in a lot of queer and trans spaces a lot of the time. And advice I've gotten has been from people who've done sensitivity reads of my work and supported the project as participants. So there are a lot of new books coming out that are all genders inclusive for young people and for adults, including mine. There are a couple from the UK coming out soon. And there are also ways to challenge this through the charter. So the charter talks about all genders inclusive language. And one of the reasons I want to use the charter is to signal to people, like a bat signal, what is welcoming as a resource. But stick up for yourself and get support. There are now organizations and menstrual health outreach projects that are regularly addressing trans inclusion on online campaigns, in their literature, through schools, but also just through conversations and activism. It's a really negative space around the conversation around trans and menstruation. Sometimes ways to keep it positive are to assert your right to be in the space. There are boxer short style period pants that are becoming really popular that a lot of folks that I know like to use, and just open conversations around how gender intersects with periods when you're in a period space. Ask. You shouldn't have to ask permission, but if somebody's running an event, if you reach out to them privately. We do have a calling in rather than calling out thing through Period Positive, but reach out and check in and say, is this welcoming of all genders of menstruator, or is this a cis women space? And it might be that the person genuinely didn't think about it and are learning and growing on this topic, and will be happy to assert that, yes, of course, people who are non-binary or trans men who menstruate are welcome. It's tough to navigate. One of the things I do is absolutely ensure that that people being trans menstruators isn't a debate. And another thing I do is try and create a safe space when I work. And if you're looking for folks who are creating safe spaces in their menstrual work, use these phrases, because people know that that's what they have to do when you ask, but they might not have realized that that was going to be helpful before you ask. Just like with disability and other sort of marginalized identities in the menstrual space, like nothing about us without us, and talk to people before you talk about people, and get stuff checked out. If you're going to put something out there, have it vetted by folks who aren't just part of an identity that is marginalized, because that can be exhausting, but somebody who is an expert and does sensitivity reads or is in the menstrual sphere and disabled and queer, etc. But yeah, it's a brilliant question. Just making sure you're getting the right pronouns is a good start for folks who want to know more. But yeah, we got you. It's here. Tell me more if I'm doing it wrong.
I love that. And actually, you're very right, because when I first started on YouTube, I had no idea how important this was in educational spaces. And the switch for me about 2.5 years ago was just people saying, hey, would you consider doing this? And my knee jerk was, I usually just take care of women because most of my patients are women. But when you're speaking to a global population, there's a very large amount of people who don't identify as women, who need information about menstruation and would like to be included in that conversation. And the switch was easy. It was so easy. It took nothing. So I very much appreciate the people who came into my comments early on and genuinely kindly asked me, because that made a huge difference.